In 2003, a small research team ventured deep into the Atacama Desert of Chile. This is one of the driest places on Earth, a barren landscape where some areas haven't seen a single drop of rain in over 400 years. The team's mission was simple. They were searching for microbial life, organisms that could survive in the most extreme conditions imaginable. But what they found wasn't a microbe, it wasn't a plant, and it wasn't anything recognizably human. Buried under just a few inches of sand, they discovered a tiny skeletal figure, no bigger than a human hand. Their first thought was that it had to be the remains of a premature or stillborn child. It was a somber, but logical assumption. However, as they examined it more closely, that logic began to fall apart. The skull was strangely elongated, tapering to a point. The ribs were oddly shaped, not matching human anatomy, and the bone density was far too high for an infant, or even an adult. Adding to the mystery, the tiny skeleton was wrapped in a thin metallic cloth. It was unlike any fabric they had ever seen, and it shimmered with an unnatural sheen even in the dim light of their tent. They had no idea what they had just uncovered, but they knew it was a discovery that could change everything. The skeleton, now classified as Specimen A-17, was secretly transported to a private laboratory in Santiago. The team knew they couldn't just hand this over to a local museum. The implications were too great. For weeks, scientists worked in complete secrecy, running every test they could think of. They analyzed bone composition, they carbon dated the wrappings, and most importantly, they began sequencing its DNA. When the results finally came back, the lab fell silent. The scientists stared at the screen, unable to process what they were seeing. The DNA was 91% similar to that of a human. That's close, but not close enough. It wasn't a known primate, it wasn't a genetic mutation, and it certainly wasn't any known human being. But the most shocking part was the other 9%. The computers couldn't identify the sequences. They were filled with unknown strands, featuring structures no life form on Earth has ever shown. The patterns looked like they were designed, not evolved through natural selection. One scientist on the project later described it like this: "It's as if someone took human DNA, but replaced certain parts with pieces from nowhere." But the most disturbing discovery was yet to come. As they analyzed the very building blocks of the genetic code, they found that some sections of the DNA were not carbon-based. This is scientifically impossible for any life that formed on Earth. It meant that whatever this being was, its origins were not of this world. The lead geneticist on the project, a brilliant man named Dr. Emilio Vargas, became completely obsessed. He saw the specimen not just as a discovery, but as a puzzle he was destined to solve. He requested more time, more funding, and began working late into the night, often completely alone in the lab. His colleagues grew concerned, noting his withdrawn behavior and his frantic, sleepless energy. One night, a security guard was doing his rounds and noticed the lab lights were still on, long after everyone else had gone home. Thinking Dr. Vargas had just forgotten to turn them off, he went inside to check. The lab was empty. The computer screens were still running complex data sequences. The tiny skeleton, Specimen A-17, was still secure in its climate-controlled glass case. But Dr. Vargas was gone. There was no sign of a struggle, no note left behind, no trace of him anywhere. His car was still in the parking lot. His wallet and keys were on his desk. The last recorded activity on his computer was a single, cryptic line typed into his personal research log. It read, "It's not a body, it's a message." After that, Dr. Emilio Vargas vanished from the face of the earth and was never seen or heard from again. The official story was that he had a mental breakdown and simply walked away. But the team knew better. Within days of his disappearance, the laboratory was sealed. Unmarked government vehicles arrived in the middle of the night. Officials in plain clothes, who refused to identify themselves, confiscated everything. All the files, all the computers, all the biological samples were taken away. And of course, Specimen A-17 disappeared into an unknown high-security facility. The remaining scientists were forced to sign strict, lifelong non-disclosure agreements. They were threatened with severe penalties if they ever spoke of the discovery. One researcher, who later broke his silence anonymously, said, "It felt like they knew exactly what the specimen was. We were the ones in the dark. They weren't investigating, they were containing." For years, the story was completely buried. It became a ghost story whispered among a handful of scientists. But then, a small, encrypted fragment of the DNA file was leaked onto the dark web. It was just a tiny piece of the puzzle, but it was enough. Independent biologists and cryptographers who managed to analyze it found something absolutely mind-bending. Hidden within the non-coding sections of the DNA sequence at repeating intervals was a mathematical pattern. It was a sequence of prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and so on. This is something that simply cannot occur naturally in biology. A random process of evolution could never produce such a perfect, ordered mathematical sequence. It looked like an intelligent signature, or a signal. It was as if whoever created this being wanted it to be found and understood as a piece of artificial technology. To this day, the questions remain unanswered. What was Specimen A-17? Was it a visitor that crash-landed on Earth thousands of years ago, its body preserved by the dry desert air? Was it a biological probe, a living drone sent by an advanced civilization to observe our world? Or was it something much older and far more intentional than we could ever imagine? The story doesn't end there. Today, people living near the remote corners of the Atacama Desert continue to report strange phenomena. They see unusual lights moving silently and rapidly across the night sky, far faster than any known aircraft. Some have reported hearing low-frequency humming sounds coming from beneath the ground, as if something buried deep is still active. And in 2017, a team of hikers stumbled upon metallic fragments scattered across a desolate patch of sand. They described the fragments as being shaped just like the woven cloth found around the original skeleton. Before they could have them analyzed, the materials were confiscated by authorities who claimed they were part of a military weather experiment. Locals believe the desert holds more secrets. They believe Specimen A-17 wasn't the only one. More remain buried, just waiting to be found. This brings us to a final, chilling thought. If the DNA truly did not originate from Earth, then the real question isn't just where it came from. The real question is, why was it left here? And who or what is going to come back for it? Because if a strand of DNA can be a message, as Dr. Vargas believed, then it's possible that someone, somewhere out there, has been waiting a very long time for a reply. And perhaps our discovery of it was the signal that we're finally ready to answer. Thanks for watching. If you found this mystery as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown. We'll see you next time.